Good Monday morning. Welcome to all of you. Happy Monday. Let's get this week started. I'm your host of our Natural Health News live show where we talk about COVID, the COVID surge, and more specifically, we're going to talk about some news that will hopefully be impactful for you all to stay healthy and well during this pandemic. And as many of you who know me and my channel and my resources and content, what we are here to do is to really equip you and empower you and your families to utilize natural resources to keep you healthy and well. So as a naturopath, my goal is going to be to educate you and to empower you with data, science, research, clinically founded information that then you can make decisions on your own. So welcome to all of you. Let me know on the live as well as on the replay. Comment in the comment box down below in the live chat. Let me know where you are tuning in from this morning. I see some regular faces. We have Kay Jefferson and JP Soso and Pat and Michelle and Morris and Monica. Good morning. So we definitely are on a surge here. There's no denial of that, but there is. So I'm going to share with you what happened during our crazy weekend. But essentially, I just want to share with you a whole bunch of news that since our Saturday show, lots happened. Globally, the world set a world record thus far for positive cases. We have over 230,000 positive cases that came through yesterday. I'm going to talk a little bit further, but just know that some of the testing, there's a delay. And so these are going to be folks that might have been tested last week or the middle of last week. So just know we're going to see more spikes and we're just going to buckle up and get through this together. Globally speaking, we're at 12.5 million cases and the US is at 3.366 million. So 3,366,000 cases. Brazil, I'll just highlight because we do have a large international community. Brazil's at 1.8 million. India's at 879,000. Russia's at 733,000. Argentina just passed 100,000 cases. Mexico over the weekend just passed Italy for the fourth highest death rate, or not death rate, death toll. They had over 35,000 or have over 35,000 deaths from COVID. Australia, they're wondering if they are in the second surge. Melbourne has been on lockdown, and since the lockdown happened last week, they've seen a third of the reduction of cases. That's big. But New South Wales, which is the border that last weekend they closed the border, and then that didn't seem to do a whole bunch of anything, so they locked Melbourne down. New South Wales they're seeing an increase. So it could be some delays of that. The Philippines is also seeing an increase in cases. And most importantly, they've seen an increase in the positive percentages. Now, just in comparison, nothing's going to really compare right now a whole lot to the US, but the Philippines overall, they have a 7.8% positive percentage rate, or positive tests percent. So 5% is what this kind of threshold of maintaining or at least having some degree of control over community spread. Anything over 5, double digits is obviously a bad spot to be in. Japan, you guys know I lived in Japan for a year. I studied and taught English there for a year. The government is concerned because of Okinawa is still a presence of a large military. We have a large U.S. military presence there. It's a southern island. There are over 500,000 troops and several dozens of Marines have tested positive for COVID. And apparently they're not staying on base during the 4th of July. They went out. They've infected citizens, Japanese citizens. So they're concerned about that. I do want to highlight some good news. So in the midst of all the chaos, I was trying to find my rainbows. The rainbow right now is that yesterday, New York had 0 deaths. Yay! So New York has really seen a major, major dip and management of this. Unfortunately, we're now seeing where New York was in March and April, and a good part of May. We're now seeing Florida, Texas, and Arizona moving into that range. So let's dig into some news. California, you guys are at 320,000 cases. Nothing's changed in terms of some of the degree of lockdowns and things like that. But Florida, Disney World opened this weekend. I saw lots of posts about people waiting, lack of social distancing, even out and open. But it does appear a lot of people are wearing masks. I can't even imagine going to Disney in the summertime. Being from Florida, Orlando is like the pit of the earth. There's no airflow. And you just don't get the sea breezes that the coastal cities get. It's hot, and then wearing a mask, forget it. I'm concerned about people getting heat stroke, also with just the degree of intensity of heat. But I do want to highlight Florida had a record-breaking positive case day. They had over 15,000, so 15,200 cases came through yesterday. That rose the percentage positive rate to 19.6%. So 1 out of 5 individuals getting tested is testing positive. Now, with that statement, I also want to highlight some of the labs that are being run. So some of these are government facilities, but many of these are private labs. These private labs have said their capacity is overwhelmed. They've had a 50% increase in the tests that they're having to run. There's about a week or more delay. So if we see Florida posted over 15,000 cases on Sunday, those could be from the Sunday before or the week before that. So that is just going to be something we're going to watch Florida. In Texas, I know a lot of you are in Texas. Texas has, you guys now have 258,000, almost 259,000 cases. Houston's the city has rolled things back. They have employed a 2-week stay-at-home order as the numbers continue to increase. I don't know if it's the newspaper there, but one of the Sunday Texas newspapers had a 43-page obituary, just an overwhelming amount of deaths, and the obituary page was 43 pages alone. One growing epicenter that I need you Texans to know about is that Corpus Christi is seeing an increase in the outbreak. They were doing relatively fine, but they are attributing, as there's some contact tracing still happening, that the vacationers, people from in-state and out-of-state going to Corpus Christi, which is on the coastal Gulf Coast, they brought the virus with them, and they're now going to be dealing with greater cases. So that's not encouraging for the folks there in Corpus Christi. Arizona is just having all sorts of records. They have 122,000 cases currently. They've really seen an increase. Like you guys know, I'm on my second COVID booklet. I write down all my notes every day. It's just kind of it's my work notebook now. I used to have notebooks like this when I was seeing patients in person. But I just want to highlight, like literally in a span of, let's see, this was Saturday. So last Monday, a week ago, Arizona had 98,000 cases. They now have 122,000. Phoenix, again, struggles with testing. They are running out of testing facility. Like the testing capacity is nil. They don't have enough supplies. People aren't getting tested. Phoenix is one of the top 10 cities in the US. They apparently have set records in the ventilation use because of all of the folks on ICU that are moving into the severe category of COVID and needing supplemental oxygen. And the hospitals have met full capacity. That does not bode well for anybody who may have COVID or has just everyday health crisis and needs to be ER and ICU. Georgia, I'll also highlight a little bit about Georgia. So you guys know we live here in Georgia. We're north of Atlanta. My clinic is in a city or area in my address is Atlanta, but we call it Sandy Springs. So I'm just north of the major loop. We call it in OPP in the perimeter. So I'm outside the perimeter of Atlanta, but it actually affects our clinic as well. So Atlanta has rolled back to phase 1, stay-at-home orders, only going out for essential items, which means this hits the economic community and folks like us that have a clinic. We've been closed, but we wouldn't be able to practice if we wanted to. Atlanta is doing that because we've seen surges. We are getting commentary from people we know in the healthcare world here, nurses and doctors, that they are quite overwhelmed. And the other thing that's happening is transfers are now coming into the northern, eastern, western, and southern hospitals. So Atlanta is starting to deviate out, transfer out cases. They also have set up a field hospital in one of our main kind of convention centers downtown. So the other thing I want to highlight, we're starting to see some of the impact this week particularly, and because of the delays, we're going to see it this week and next week. But the 4th of July, all the activities, the socialization, the lack of social distancing, that's all coming out. So for instance, in Michigan, there was a lake party, 4th of July kind of sandbar gathering. We used to do this in Florida. Hundreds of folks on boats, and they are now starting to see an explosion of positive cases linked to everybody gathering at the sandbar. One of the things I really do want to highlight is that testing is highly strained. The average amount of tests that are being given on a daily basis, we're averaging about 640,000 cases. Professionals in the testing world and even epidemiologists have recommended we get beyond 1 million a day, up to upwards of 5 million. So we're still delayed. Those were recommendations back in February and March. We're not seeing that taking heed. So we're not learning from our, challenges we saw in New York and New Jersey, and even Washington with the testing strain. Questa Labs is one of the labs that said they've seen a 50% increase. We're also, unfortunately, where we've known some of the major epicenters, and this also qualifies for Texas, Arizona, and Florida. The ALF, so the assisted living facilities, the SNFs, the skilled nursing facilities, and the long-term care facilities, nursing homes, folks where people are going, after hospital stays for rehab. Those communities have been epicenters. We know that. Having known that, you think we would be learning from this. And unfortunately, there are major testing delays, even longer delays, and a lack of thorough testing through these communities. And there's a lot of concern in the hotspots right now is that these communities will be forgotten or not tested. And we're going to see additional epicenters in these facilities. Also of major concern is PPE in those communities where, they're not hospital oriented, but they are going to see a significant amount of deaths due to just the population profile, the age, some of the underlying health conditions. I do want to highlight a sad kind of note. There was a New York ER doctor who was part of the major wave in New York. Very well known and touted in the community. And she was at the Allen, which is one of the hospitals up there. She, because of the mental and emotional strain of not being able to save lives, which is what she went to school to do, she ended up checking herself into a psychiatric hospital and unfortunately committed suicide on the 8th. Excuse me. And that news came out. It's very devastating, an ER doctor. But this is something we need to be aware of, that this does impact our healthcare professionals. Not only are they getting frustrated by the anti-maskers and the COVID deniers, but they're just overwhelmed by this virus. We still don't know a lot about it. And, she said the time in fighting COVID and working with people was the hardest time of her life. So I want to highlight that just because of the strain. If you have a healthcare worker in your life, please love on them and check in on them and make sure they're doing okay mentally. Some of these folks are trained to deal with death and crises in the medical world, but nothing is going to prepare them for this. This is war. It literally is like sending them into war, and it's the worst war we have battled thus far. Okay. Let's talk about COVID crazy. Okay, so I'm just calling it COVID crazy. That's my own term. There's all sorts of terms for it, but what is crazy? I posted on Facebook. So any of you who follow me on Facebook, I have a page which is public. It's called Your Natural Health Resources if you search it. And then I also have a private group. So I posted to my page about this situation. There's a story that came out over the weekend. Not only are we seeing teenagers and university students throwing COVID parties, now we're seeing it into individuals in their 30s. Some individual gentleman, 30 years old in Texas, went to a COVID party. These parties, this is legitimate, friends. You can't make this stuff up. Like, it is absolutely asinine. The COVID parties look like this. An infected person knowingly throws a party, and the guests knowingly come to the party, and the mission is to find out who out of the friends will get the sickest or who will catch it first. So who can, and the adult version. So, the University of Alabama had all these COVID parties that, it was made the city county commissioners made the health department aware, and like everybody was aware of this. The university level was like, who would catch it the first? Now the 30-year-old, the version is who can beat it. So who can kick COVID? And we have one of our first known fatalities from a COVID party. I posted this on my Facebook open page, and oh my God, you would think that I lit the world on fire. I have had so many crazy comments and just really outrageous responses. I am in the holistic world as a naturopathic physician. I also have a background and have studied neuroendocrine balancing. That's science oriented, that's chemistry oriented. I also do lymphatic work, which is one of the least known systems of the body, and have studied that, and actually was planning this summer to be in Germany to continue my education at the premier hospital, the only hospital that deals with lymphatic work. So I have a background in clinical work. I'm not a scientist or researcher, but I've used that and have been taught and trained on that data, and also use it in my particular practice for my recommendations and just giving credence to what I practice. And one of the challenges, this is a little soapbox, one of the challenges when I first started over 15 years ago, we were, I've studied naturopathy, which is really now it's labeled functional medicine. It's a lot nicer than what people used to call us. They call us woo-woo doctors or, whatever, alternative medicine. It's now become more mainstream, but I have dealt with that from the get-go. I have dealt with people naysaying and negating the science and the practice. Even acupuncture and Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, have been around for thousands of years. They've been highly effective, and there's a lot of research. Same with, sorry guys, we've got the dogs here. Same with herbs. People question that. And so I have taken my approach as a naturopath to quell the concerns people have about not having data and backgrounds on it, and background on the validity and effectiveness of natural medicine. So that is something I am totally aware of, and I've become attuned, and it's part of my clinical training, and what I do on a daily basis is to give credence and back up what I say. And this COVID party post on Facebook just was insane. It's just really eye-opening. I've been called a liar, a sheep, rude, and oh, well, that's your opinion. There's a big difference between having an opinion and actually having factual data, scientific backup. And that, I think, is one of the challenges that a lot of us feel. And I think, this ER doctor, the degree that it overwhelmed her. There's just so many layers, but it doesn't help when there are people negating experts and questioning experts and it does not help our community stay healthy. So I do have some other COVID crazy stories. So this happened in June, but the story continues. And the story is this weekend, a woman was arrested and charged multiple charges on counts because of a situation that happened in Costco. I believe it was in Michigan. It was in the Northwest, like Midwest, Northern Midwest. Woman wearing a mask goes to Costco. She's shopping. She sees a gentleman checking out. He's leaving and he starts to pull off his mask. Okay. She freaks out, rams her cart into his cart, has some words with him. Apparently they have an exchange, and I'm sure there may be video of this, but she has an exchange. And then she gets so mad, she pulls off her own mask, coughs on him repeatedly, saying, I'm a teacher and I have COVID-19, and like puts her mask back on and leaves. So that has now accelerated to the authorities. They arrested her and charged her on the 8th with multiple counts. Her bail was set at $40,000. And that's just one of a multitude of escalations. I don't know if she really did have COVID. Like I've read multiple stories on this. With HIPAA, I don't know if that's going to come out right now, but she goes in front of the court on the 28th of July. So if I can follow this, I will. It's just really insane. And that just is an example of the heightened level of angst on multiple fronts. We have folks that are frustrated, rightfully so, by the CDC. There's been some reporting challenges. The World Health Organization has been really slow. I understand that, but that doesn't deny what we know and what we're learning about COVID. And I really implore you all to just keep an open mind. And at the end of the day, do what is safest for you and your families, but also we each have a responsibility for our communities. Okay. So I just really, yes, there are going to be crazy people out there, but please don't hit anybody with your shopping carts. Don't cough on anybody and claim you have COVID. Like, oh my God. Okay. So also, there are, unfortunately, this is another bit of news. South Carolina, we have some viewers on here. I don't know if Jenna's on here. South Carolina has their two first cases of children with the multi-system inflammatory disease, the Kawasaki style full system inflammation that slows down and it slows down the heart function of children. We see a dip in oxygen levels. There are two of these cases, one in the Midlands region, and then another in the PEDEE region. So that is very concerning, especially now that we're looking at schools going back in. And I will tell you, yesterday we had our first social distancing play date, one of Gabriel's friends. We've done video chats and getting to know his mom. They're newer in town. His mom has underlying health conditions, several of them. Brian has underlying health conditions. We have been really locked down because if he gets sick, it could be fatal, or extremely overwhelming, and he'd have to be hospitalized and get all these infusions and things like that. So at any rate, we found out that they haven't done anything, just like we haven't done anything. And so we were like, let's meet up. So we met up in a parking lot and our boys wore their masks the whole entire time. I'm so proud of Gabriel. I actually have these ones. He wore his little mask the whole entire time. And we even set up, we had our chairs, we social distance, the parent, the mom and I, and the boys were riding their bikes for about an hour and 15 minutes, which was great. We were under the shade. We're at a really low key park. He wore his mask. We even set him up snacks, socially distanced snack time. They both kept their, removed their masks and then put them back on. And it was awesome. And so, parents, as you work with your children, he had some incentive, particularly the incentive is if you don't wear your mask, you're not going to be able to play with Ari again. And so, he was highly incentivized, and it was great. And so we're going to do this every week. But that is something that as parents we're concerned about our children. And, if your kids are going to go back to school, start to get them used to wearing masks and exercising and doing everyday routine. I mean, we had the little helmet on, and then, even he and I talked about what's the best way to pull it down. Like, you can pull it down and have your snack, the hand sanitizers and everything. So there's this whole process with kids. Just want to put that out there. Think about doing a video on that. Gabriel's not always the best person to get on camera to do stuff, but I really want to try and do that if I can. So comment down below if you're interested in that. Also, one of the challenges that we're seeing, the hot spots, Florida, Arizona, California, and Texas. Those are 4 states that about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, reported that the remdesivir that had been allocated for some of the northeastern hotspots, they've now moved that to those hotspots. This is part of a therapeutic trial. They're running out of remdesivir, and that is part of one of the reasons they're starting to articulate possible decrease in the death rate, is that we actually are starting to employ some of these therapeutics. So that's a challenge. And the other factor is that, with the lack of social distancing and mask mandates occurring, we're not seeing a decrease. And so there's more cases, more hospitalizations. We're seeing these communities tapping out at max hospitalizations. Today, our topic, let me write this down, 2642. The topic today is based on a journal pre-proof. So there's this whole process in journal articles, medical journals, that it's written, it's submitted, it gets peer reviewed, and then, there's proofing mechanisms. But this has been released for review, but it is out of Miami. And so it's out of the University of Miami. There is one of the directors of the Miami Heart Research Institute. He also is a cardiovascular doctor down there. And he happens to be a professor of clinical medicine with the University of Miami, and he's the director of clinical cardiac electrophysiology. And his name is Dr. Raul Mitrani. So he's posted a whole bunch of information. And actually, I think I've got on here, let's see, this is the front of it. It's a pre-proof for heart rhythm. This is the journal that they've submitted this article to. They submitted it in May. I got revised in June, on June 15th, and the journal accepted it. So it will be published. I don't know the exact publishing date, but it'll be out in the Heart Rhythm, as part of the Heart Rhythm Society. So at any rate, this research really looks at hospitalized patients and the impact on their heart health. So today we're going to talk about a particular type of heart condition that is occurring with patients hospitalized. And these are patients that may have underlying health conditions and also ones that don't. So what they've seen is that up to 20 to 30% of patients hospitalized with cardiovascular disease, COVID related, they have evidence of myocardial involvement. And so this can trigger acute cardiac injury, and it is attributed to higher morbidity and mortality. So this becomes a fatal condition. They highlight that there's no sort of data in terms of the convalescent phase, so the after COVID. But this is a viral myocarditis. And so there are many viruses. Epstein-Barr is one of them that can affect your heart. And you can get a long-term change in your heart rhythm, the way the heart functions. So certain labs and tests that are run on your heart will be impacted because of the virus. And so today I want to highlight, there's really 3 natural supplements that we would use to help address myocarditis or myocardiopathy. And they have research. So this is not, woo-woo. Again, I come at everything that I do with backup and background and research and data. There are a few others that would be involved, and I'll highlight those, but the three have been assessed clinically in terms of how do we address the myocarditis or the myocardial involvement. So let's dig into this news. So this University of Miami cardiologist, he basically created, so all of this data, created a post-COVID clinic screening. And it's really interesting because they pull a little bit they pull data. So the first thing that they do is they pull data out of Wuhan, New York, Seattle, and New York. So they've got different segments of data about the heart challenges. And they talk a little bit about the difference in age. They, the median age where we're seeing, at least here in the US, the median age is about 63 for the individuals that have this myocardial impact. And then they talk a little bit about some of the other conditions. Some of the data they don't have fully, but there are a lot of ICU admissions for these folks. What he's done, they have two aspects, and this is the most important aspect. They talk about what all are these patients being presented with COVID, and then how it articulates into long-term damage. So there's usually some sort of oxygen deficiency. So, the pulse ox that they're running 60s, 70s, sometimes 30s, all very challenging. Type 2 diabetes, they have the thrombotic, so they have the blood clotting. They have a different type of infraction rates that are imbalanced. Then the pro-inflammatory state, so the cytokine storm, they talk a little bit about this, and then other mediators. Direct viral invasion, so we know that the virus does take root in the heart tissue. Autoimmune response, so these underlying autoimmune challenges, and then interaction with electrical hardwiring of the heart. And that all, it can produce the myocardial injury. And the interaction with the electrical circuitry of the heart actually triggers people to be in AFib. So this is really critical because a lot of times, and this is not COVID related, but a lot of times people in AFib don't always know they're in AFib. They might feel fatigued. They might feel some kind of weird heart racing, but they don't always attribute it to AFib. So if you are sitting here and it's just beyond heart palpitations, and if you've had them, I have them, you know what that feels like. It feels really weird. But AFib is like really intense racing heart. Another reason to have a pulse oximeter, because you can evaluate your heart rate. If your heart rate is over 110, 120, and you're not working out. I mean, working out's a totally different, status. But if you're not working out and you've got this elevation and it's getting up to 150, 200 beats per minute, that's way too intense. It's a revving of your engine. So if you think about any of you car enthusiasts, your heart's your engine and it's revving, the transmission is going to break. And what happens is there's injury. So what they found with COVID, there are multiple degrees of injury. So there's myocardial injury. We have microinfraction imbalances. Have ventricular fibrosis. So that is really something we haven't heard a lot about, and I haven't really dug into that. But that is the ventricles leading in and out of the heart have fibrosis. Some of that's a thickening. Could be from the intense heart rate. It could be an autoimmune response. Also could be some degree of blood clotting aspect. And then we see that atrial fibrosis as well. So ventricular and atrial fibrosis, the thickening of the tissue. That's also the inflammation aspect. So how it presents is we'll have the cardiomyopathy. We'll have 2 different degrees of cardiomyopathy. We'll have a subclinical systolic and diastolic, so the blood pressure abnormalities. You'll see a different risk of ventricular trauma, and then the AFib. And what this doctor has done is, I love this. This is really good. And this is going to be something, if you have any underlying heart conditions, heart disease history, like my family, we have heart disease. It's my biggest health concern that I'm addressing now in my early 40s. I don't want to have these things be on my coding for insurance. Please print this out. I'll make sure I get this specific. I'll link this. But this chart at the end, I don't remember what page. It's at the end. There's 3 charts that they have at the end. This is recommendations for patients. So this is a flow chart, if you will. This is the post-COVID cardiac care that this doctor's come out with. And basically, he talks about what should your doctor be measuring, what should they be analyzing. He calls it STEMI, STEMI protocol for COVID positive patients, analyzing any type of other myocardial injury. I think they're home. As well as imaging and therapeutic assessments. So maybe we need an echocardiogram, but definitely some sort of convalescent care. So 2 to 6 months is the window he's identified. So ECG and an echo, cardiac monitor depending on the symptoms. Sometimes that might be like a little heart band and you're wearing it all day so they can see if there's AFib. Sometimes when people go to sleep, they might feel a little bit more, but it can happen during the day. Consider different cardiac risk factors. If it's abnormal, then there's advanced imaging, an echo with a strain, an LGE, MRI scan, and then post-MI therapy and imaging. So this is really key. So any of you, let me know, comment down below, replay and live, if you guys have any type of heart challenges. This is going to be really critical as we start to see, we're up to over 3 million patients. We're going to have a lot of individuals working cardiac specialists. So this is going to be this is really exciting for the heart world, just in terms of some diagnostics after the fact. And if anybody, there is even recommendations that, from this, if you think about all these players, the athletic players, so from football to, collegiate football, hockey, soccer, everybody in the collegiate world, if they have had COVID, there may be some requirements to run them through these to make sure they're okay. The worst case scenario, liability as a professional athlete, is that they have some sort of infraction while they're playing and it causes a fatality, or worse, they pass out and they need to get rushed to the hospital. So this is really going to be critical in terms of this post-COVID heart screening. The other thing that I want to do is I want to equip you with 3 core resources that we know are very powerful at helping to sometimes minimize, mitigate, and also begin to lay the foundation for the body to cellularly heal the body. And that's the one thing I always tell anybody that I work with is that the body is constantly changing. Your cells are constantly evolving and they continue to grow and change until you take your last breath. And that is a wonderful opportunity for you to make changes in lifestyle, diet, and natural ways, wellness, changes, exercise, whatnot, stress balancing. You can change the way that heart or the organ tissue or glandular tissue repairs. So when we look at this is really about not just anti-aging, but also affecting that development of those cells in the future. Some good reference books is, Deepak Chopra has The Healing Self is the name of the book. It's fantastic. It came out last year. It's wonderful. And he breaks down essentially the time it takes for like the particular organs to recreate their tissue. So sometimes it's 30 days, sometimes it's 300 days, but you have time to help your cells become more robust, more powerful, and that becomes a healing resource. And that's evidence-based. Okay, so let's dig into 3 resources. Number 1, this I haven't really talked about a lot on my channel. I have talked a little bit about in the COVID series, but definitely not this. Thymus extract. This is a glandular-based extract. I do highlight, and I have a link down below, the thymus tapping. Thymus tapping is awesome for heart health. So for anybody who has any type of heart challenges, thymus tapping can invigorate and balance out some of the heart challenges. So thymus tapping is linked down below, but thymus extract, and I don't have the exact extract, but I've got a link down below. You can take the thymus glandular, and this has been clinically proven. So it's been researched that it improves your exercise level, it improves your capacity to exercise, it improves heart function, and in cardiomyopathy, it increases the survival rate. So that is significant. When we look at how do we deal with the post-COVID heart challenges, and they will be there, even asymptomatic cases, no doubt. If we're seeing the scarring, the gray matter on the CT scans of the lungs, the heart will be impacted. And I guarantee there's going to be a huge percentage of folks that don't even think about going to cardiologists after this. So if you guys, and I know many of you viewers have had positive tests, I know some of you are waiting on them. If it comes back and it's positive, wait until you get through this virus. One of the first appointments you should be making is with a cardiologist. And this data, particularly this flow chart that the clinician has, this doctor, this is going to be what you're going to want to see from your cardiologist. And if you find that that person doesn't do post-COVID screening, guarantee there will be others. So definitely do your research. But it's really critical that we do have heart health as a forefront in our recovery of COVID. So thymus extract is number 1. I have a link down below to one of my favorites. It's a really high quality brand. Your extracts are going to be from animal, bovine particularly in this case, but you want it to be clean. And so the supplements that we sell, like the Thyroplex I've recommended, these are freeze-dried glandulars. They're coming out of New Zealand. They're grass-fed. There's no sort of chemical exposure. That's a cleaner resource. And you do want to pay more on your extracts, particularly with the thymus and the heart glandular impact. You want to make that choice. So I put that out there. That's one. The second one that is proven to be very powerful as a major heart antioxidant is alpha lipoic acid. I want to say about, almost 20 years ago, there was research that came out, alpha lipoic acid and L-carnitine, acetyl L-carnitine. Those two were given to mice, and the mice actually, their aging process stopped. So it literally kept the cells really rich and supple, and it minimized the cellular damage and the free radical damage. Well, the same kind of impact. Alpha lipoic acid can prevent the cellular damage within all of our cells, but particularly it's used in heart health. We can also see this in other, like if you have cellular damage of your liver with Hep C or Hep B or any of those, that would be critical. Broccoli is a source for alpha lipoic acid, spinach, yeast, but a lot of my folks that are minimizing their gluten won't take yeast, but potatoes and liver also. Now, another powerful resource that's been heavily researched is CoQ10. So every part of your heart contains coenzyme Q10. And coenzyme Q10, I've got that link down below as well. CoQ10 is fantastic for improving your heart health. We call it the elixir of life in terms of it energizes the mitochondria, so the heart of each of the cells. It invigorates and it boosts and bolsters their capacity to be strong. So in the state of heart damage, I actually work with a lot of patients post heart attack when, assortment of viral diseases of the heart or viral illnesses of the heart, we can actually reverse heart damage. And I have a ton of patients that have scans of the heart, at damage, and then 6 months, 12 months after, when we go high dosing of CoQ10, and their doctors are shocked. And a lot of times they've even said, oh, I should have prescribed you CoQ10. Duh, it is very clinically proven to be powerful for the heart. I do want to go back to the thymus. One of the things that I also want for any of you who deal with frequent colds and flus, you find you have a little bit of a weaker immune system, have had Epstein-Barr, maybe have Hep C, you have Hep A, B, and C, you have herpes or shingles outbreaks, even MS, you have lupus, you have RA, any of the autoimmune challenges. Thymus extract can be a game changer. I mean, game changer, because it has such a powerful role in bolstering our energy, but also bolstering and balancing our immune system. The reason why the thymus is so critical, when we are born, our thymus gland is bigger than our heart, and nature's created that for a reason. When we're younger, when we're infants, we don't have all of the immune mechanisms yet to respond to our environment. And when we're born, we are mostly human DNA, but within several years, we become 99% non-human DNA. We become bacterial DNA. A lot of people don't realize that, but that is the reality. Part of that transition to keep us healthy and alive, the thymus is actually bigger than the heart when we're born. And we see changes as children grow older, as we should. But even 40, 50 years ago, infants were getting, doctors would radiate the thymus gland of children. And I've had a lot of people I've worked with say, yeah, my thymus was radiated. Like, oh my gosh. And no wonder why they have all of these systemic autoimmune challenges on top of another. It's like 3 and 4 layers of autoimmunity. One begets the other. It's just this process. So the thymus extract can be very powerful for those with Epstein-Barr virus. And I know a lot of you fall into that category. Even shingles, if you've had one occurrence, the likelihood of it occurring again is great. That is something that you want to take a thymus gland. Do you want to take it every day? Maybe not. It kind of depends on your status, but definitely for those who have any type of heart challenges, the thymus gland, particularly during this time, is going to be critical. Also for individuals who are post-COVID and have had, they're still coughing. I mean, the sign that there is long-term damage is going to be that long cough, that hacking, throaty, barking cough. That's the tissue damage in the lung, and that tends to be the hardest to repair. But when we talk about scarring of our organs and our glands, we need the immune system to eradicate the scar tissue so we can have the cellular turnover. So that layer of thymus extract, alpha lipoic acid, CoQ10, it's a power punch for healthy hearts. Other herbal, herbs that are powerful, and this can also depend on if there are diastolic, systolic imbalances. We'll see like hawthorn berries, very powerful for the heart. Another really beneficial heart supplement, vitamin D. Every cell needs vitamin D. It's an energizer. It's a steroid. It's a cellular protectant. So that's another one that is helpful. So I want to put that out there for today's video, because I know a lot of you, very similar to my own family, has histories of heart attacks, strokes, heart disease, and COVID will exacerbate. And we don't know yet the degree that COVID will turn on our pre-existing genetic composition. We just don't know that yet. I know we will find out. We'll learn more. But the likelihood of that being something that we're going to deal with is great. So definitely consider these 3 and some additional resources I've linked down below. Consider that as an option to addressing the post-COVID myocarditis and myocardial injury. And when we talk about injury, like that is heart, the heart has been damaged, heart tissue damage. And so the thing that we need to keep operating and keeping us alive, we need our heart to be optimized. And that triangle, the lungs, the kidneys, the heart, that golden triangle, we need all of them to be operating. So I wanted to highlight this for you all. I hope that was helpful. Joanne says, why would a doctor radiate a child's thymus gland? So in the, older days, they thought that was unhealthy. They didn't realize that there was a function that the thymus gland played, and it was to keep the children, to help regulate the children's immunity as they started to adapt to the world outside the womb. That's the way, we learn as we go. Morris Monica, I've been having heart racing at night, maybe stress, thinking about going to cardiologist tomorrow to get checked out. Yes, definitely do get it checked out. When in doubt, if you're having racing heart, do check it out. Lynette, people are horrible. Yeah, I was saying I hate people a lot yesterday. People are whacked, totally. Crazy people going to COVID parties. Okay. All right, so let's see. Oh, Scott Landon. Oh, thanks, Scott. That's so sweet. So Scott had asked us a question on Friday's Q&A Live. He says, thanks for your dedication and help to those of us outside your practice. Wanted $20 super chat, only getting $4.99 options. So you may be seeing more from me. Thanks, Scott. I'm grateful. Happy Monday. And I'm hoping your test results come back negative. Okay, so let's see here. Very, very nice. Thank you. Tanya said, I'll share my heart story on the replay. It's too long for the live chat. I'm glad I'm doing much better. Okay, good. Pat and Ron are taking CoQ10 daily. Yes. Taryn, you've got alpha lipoic acid and CoQ10. It's great stuff. Yeah, and Jenny's right. I have a video. It's actually linked down below. And on Instagram, the IGTV, that'll be on the replay. But it's literally like, I'll just take my necklace off. This is the coolest necklace. It's magnetic. Oh, I always fumble with those. But you literally just tap like right in between your chest, and you do like kind of Tarzan tapping, and that will invigorate your thymus gland. And so it gives you energy. It also bolsters up your immune system. It triggers the immune cells. And so when you do that, literally you do it for 15, 20 seconds, you'll feel a vibration. That is what we call waking up your thymus gland. It's awesome. I love it. Love it. Love it. Scott, second $4.99. Thank you. I appreciate that. What is recommended RDA? Oh, for alpha lipoic acid, I believe the RDA is, I want to say it's 600, but I don't know if that, because of it being in its antioxidant, we don't have necessarily toxicity with it, but usually you're going to find 600 milligrams. And so the way I will take it, I usually take it at night, empty stomach, and I'll take 2. So that tends to be so I go with 1200 milligrams. Yeah, so Blessed Indeed said she's got more info, and she's right, because I didn't go into the full detail. Oh, DL Short, 1999. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, Dr. Melissa. Thank you. You guys are so nice. That's made my day. Saturday and Sunday, holy cow, the Facebook people were nasty, nasty, nasty. And one of the things that I recognize is they don't, there's a part of this, like it comes with the territory. I get it. But I am very much in tune personally to my business. Like I take what I do very seriously, and helping all of you. Scott, you're so sweet. Thank you, Scott, for all your super chats. I'm grateful. I take it seriously and personally. And when people are like, you should be talking about mental health. I do every day. It's like, you guys don't know what I do. And to blast off and to get really nasty without doing investigation, I think it's just indicative of the way people consume data, quick headlines without digging in, and critical thinking. And like calling somebody a sheep just doesn't do anything to help, support your cause. But, really assessing what somebody is all about, I think really helps you evaluate whether you're going to make snap judgments. So, it is what it is. I think a lot of them bounced off, but they were harassing some of you, and I don't like that. And so I had to enlist one of my to help me kind of manage their craziness. COVID crazy is what I call it. Okay, so Cupcake Paper says, I bought a Cardio Mobile 6 lead and it is great. tells you instant EKG is normal. Yeah, that is fantastic. I think there are a lot of really good monitoring tools that we can use, and what's awesome now is we have technology. So there are now phones, like Brian got his dad something where he can just put his finger on it. It'll do a reading of his heart function. This evaluating your oxygen levels, your heart rate, always powerful. I mean, this can be used anytime you need it. Having a heart monitor, not just for fitness tracking, but just everyday functionality of your heart. And with COVID, there are a lot of unknowns and unforeseen challenges that the individual's body deals with that are often unexpected. And so if we equip ourselves with resources to be able to monitor, you also then make really good decisions. Like if you live in Houston and your ERs, they're full and they're turning people away, if you're monitoring this, you can get in sooner. You've got data when you're calling ahead or going in. You can say, I've been tracking my oxygen levels. That allows also for the clinicians to be more adept at dealing with the severity you might be dealing with. So that is something to think about. And I know that sounds it's kind of morbid when you really think about, okay, these could be tools. If you are in an urgent situation, you've got some resources and information. I actually have what we call health journals on my website. I'll post a link to that. But they're line pages and they have a little logo on them. I think they're like $5. But that wouldn't be a bad idea to just get yourself a journal and track some of these things on a daily basis, especially if you're awaiting a test or you have underlying health conditions and you might have been exposed or, and that's the other thing too, is you evaluate your, the level of exposure. You can then determine, okay, I need to be kind of monitoring myself in the next 2 weeks. If you went out and maybe hit to the grocery store and you're like, okay, I'm not doing that again. But in 2 weeks, you want to make sure that you don't have COVID. Having those resources are going to be critical. Joanne, this is a pulse ox or pulse oximeter. So it monitors, and when I talk, sometimes my heart rate goes up. So we'll see how high my heart rate is. But I put it on my finger and it's going to measure oxygen levels, and then it will measure, okay, so yeah, here we go. Sorry, upside down. Okay, so my oxygen's at 98 because I'm talking and have been talking. I'm at 100 heartbeat. Also, I get really pissed when I think about like the Facebook people, COVID deniers. So it definitely is a factor. Okay, let's see. Amazon. Okay, yeah, and I'll post some links to that. Let's see. Good. JP is tracking his health tracking. Yeah, so there's tracking apps on your mobiles. Cardio Mobile for an extra $10. A cardiologist will read the EKG. Awesome. Yeah, this is where we can use technology for our favor or in our favor and to help us enhance our health and wellness. So I really do love that. Pixie Bell in Australia. Yay, we've got an Australia viewer. Okay, let's see. Okay, yes, and please, if you guys like this, please give me a thumbs up. I appreciate it. And what has really been helping, I've gotten more views on my content. When this wraps, especially on YouTube, if you guys want to comment, and even on Instagram TV, if you want to comment on the video once it finishes, that totally is very helpful. So, but Scott and DL Short, thank you so much for the live super chats. I am grateful. Let's see. Sharon says, can you address the difficult subject of suicide in younger people? It is starting to happen in response to this lockdown. I have friends that just lost their only son 4 days of 24th birthday. Yeah, I mean, suicide, it's definitely part of it. It is, I will say, it is being used as one of the arguments against COVID. So COVID deniers are using suicide. I mean, mental health is getting exacerbated by COVID. The degree of it, and that is, mental health isn't my specialty. So I just want to put that out there. I know really a lot of things about certain things, but not everything. So I don't know all the details about it, but I know it's overwhelming people. I mean, I feel stressed out and, stressed and crunched with Gabriel. And like, it's a lot for people. And so, I think too, coping tools, coping mechanisms, how well people cope with adversity. And that actually, one of the things about the ER doctor was like, she was so used to being successful that she didn't know how to handle it. All right, Instagram, you guys are going off. Join me on YouTube. We'll continue this conversation. Have a great day. Okay, let me save this. But I mean, literally it was like, especially when you think about like doctors, they're like the best of their class and they keep moving and achieving. And then you hit something that you can't move, you can't change. And that's really hard. It is hard for folks to mentally deal with that. And then it just doesn't help when we have people saying you're lying. Like literally, I had somebody on Facebook say, everybody's lying. This is a whole lie. So are you going to say that, all of the friends that we all know and people in our sphere who've tested positive, they're all lying about it? Like, it's just like, it's craziness. It's just like you can't even argue that. And I try to tune off on weekends anyway. Plus we had our sod delivery. We're doing a whole bunch of stuff outside. And then yesterday we had Gabriel's play day, and then we come home and he decides, I don't know what happened. He ate a bead. And so I'm on like poop patrol to make sure the bead passes. Really tiny, as something minor. He's never done anything like that. I don't know what happened, but he freaked out. I was like, oh my God, I swallowed it. He was like, like trying to get it. So, that's stressful, but, yeah, the mental health aspect is critical, but I think what's really exacerbating it, for the younger kids in school, it's the lack of socialization. But I think it also too, we have to, for resiliency, we just have to adapt and pivot. And, how do we utilize technology to connect? And I think there's also a generation of kids who haven't really been connected and don't know how to adapt to changes that don't weigh in their favor. And I don't, this is just total opinion, but I think, giving all kids awards doesn't help people realize they're winners and fail. There's people who win and fail, and failure is your best lesson. Like Gabriel eating a bead, he's going to learn never to put anything in his mouth. And we had some really serious conversations about that. Yeah, he ate a bead, Pat. Well, apparently his cousin has put stuff in his ears. I'm like, okay, at least Gabriel hasn't done that. Like, I need to knock on my fake wood in here. So fun times. But yeah, telehealth is totally available. One of the good friends of mine who worked at my clinic is a mental health therapist and hypnotherapist. She's pulling 50 hours a week talking to people. They're having challenges in their marriages. They're having challenges with like adult kids who are home from college. You think you're empty nester and like all 4 of your kids come home and like they're in your space. And, there's a lot to balance. And then parents with school and the kids with school. And, it's a lot. At least he didn't stick the bead up his nose. Yeah, we totally, yeah. Fun times. We actually need to get him a new bike. He has outgrown his bike. It's funny because his friend's mom was like, oh my gosh, Gabriel's gone like 2 or 3 inches. And he's gotten really tall. He's taller than his friend who's a year older than him. And Gabriel doesn't look like he's 4. He looks like he's 6. So, but mentally he's a 4-year-old who ate a bead, put a bead in his mouth. Okay. So Nancy, check out Dr. Steven. Okay. That's good. Let me write that down. Let's see. My son, when he was 1.5 years old, stuck a vitamin tablet in his nose. That's at least one thing Gabriel does consume his vitamins, knows where to put them. But yeah, appreciate normal things like going out and getting your hair done. Yeah. So feeling normal. And that's, the new normal. Yeah, there's a new normal. We're in a pandemic, but then there's gonna be a new normal after it. Let's see. Pixie Bell, I'm a stay-at-home person and get tired of being pressured to go out. This lockdown works in my favor. Yeah, it's really good for a lot of the introverts and folks that, are okay. Like I actually do enjoy kind of doing nothing. One of the things is when you're working with people all the time, sometimes you just want to talk. You just want the solo space. It's been good. we are planning a whole bunch of like home improvement stuff. So our kitchen, we had to have the contractor in Friday to help us. He actually hooked up our dishwasher. So many of you know our kitchen had our flood. And so that we talked with them. They're like, we'll wear hazmat suits if you want. Like, because we were saying, we just really are kind of getting sick of like having half the floor torn out, and we've kind of makeshift kitchen and like plastic pull out, set up tables and things like that. And so he said, well, we'll do whatever you guys want, feel comfortable with. And so we might get kicking on that sooner, but then we'd have to leave and go somewhere. So it's crazy. My friend's kid stuck a Barbie shoe up her nose. Expensive ER trip. 4-year-old who ate a bead. Yeah. Fun times. I just find going to the health food store so confusing. I wish there weren't so many different products. Yes, Heather, I totally understand that. And that's what I really try and do, is help people kind of identify. I mean, sometimes you can take too much, and how do you know? And like, there's standardized and not, and in the herbal category, what's better, liquid or tablet? It's a lot to manage. All right. Debbie says, my feet swell every summer. Any suggestions? So it could be lymphatic. It could be heart related. Magnesium. I would take magnesium. That's a good way to move. Magnesium, bromelain, it's very good. So pineapple, eat lots of pineapple. Also, watermelon is really good for swelling. It's recommended a lot with pregnancy and swelling, but there's a reason why watermelon's available in the summertime. It's good for flushing. Let's see. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. So give me a thumbs up if you like this, and definitely please come back, give a thumbs up to the video, comment in the video when it gets all processed. And I am grateful for all of you. You guys are such a wonderful community. I want to thank Pat for her leadership of our live chat and just supporting each and every one of you. I really feel like you guys are so cute when I go back and read the comments, because I miss them a lot. I love the community that we've built. So I really appreciate each and every one of you. Wish you a healthy and safe, happy day. And tune in tomorrow. I'm sure I'm going to have lots more news. And if you're interested in my Facebook page, do check it out. You can search it by typing in the search bar, Your Natural Health Resources. The Your had to be in there. There was somebody else who had natural health resources. So, but do join, definitely follow that page. And I have a private group as well. It's the Natural Health Resources community. So that has you ask, we kind of screen people so that we eliminate these people that are like spammers on Facebook. But so check me out there and follow me on Instagram too, Natural Health Resources. All right, everybody, have a great day. And thank you to our live super chat folks. I really appreciate it. All right, have a good day. Bye.